Chair now recognizes gentleman from Texas, Dr. Burgess, for 5 minutes.
Thank you for the recognition. I learned something this morning. I always learn something on this committee. Mr. Guthrie asked a question about vitamin A, and Dr. Fauci, thank you for your answer. I did not know that in vitamin A deficient individuals, perhaps there was going to be a harder course for the disease. I do feel obligated to mention that vitamin A is not like vitamin C. You may not take unlimited quantities of vitamin A with impunity. It is a fat-soluble vitamin, and it is stored in the body. So don't go out and hyperdose on vitamin A, because it will not accrue to your long-term benefit. So vaccines themselves are at the very heart of medical innovation and some way parallel the history of this country. Dr. Edward Jenner began his career and introduced the first vaccination in 1796, 20 years after our Declaration of Independence. So long history of an association with vaccination. So the two of you work together on these issues. So can you perhaps tell us a little bit how you work together to prevent the reappearance of vaccine-preventable diseases? We're focused on measles this morning. Rubella, something I remember from my residency at Parkland Hospital, a congenital rubella syndrome in a child was devastating. These are illnesses that new generations of doctors don't see because of the effectiveness of the vaccine. Can you speak just briefly how your agencies interact and work together?
Well, as you know, Dr. Burgess, that the CDC and the NIH are within the Department of Health and Human Services, so we consider each other sister agencies, as it were. And the CDC has the major responsibility, as Dr. Messonnier will tell you, about the public health, the surveillance, and the messages. We, as a research institution, try to fill in any of the gaps that occur from a research standpoint. What we're talking about today is really less of a research problem than it is an implementation problem. So how we help and work with our colleagues at the CDC is to continue to provide the evidence-based, the science-based evidence of why we need to implement a highly successful program that is, as we know, the vaccine program that we're talking about. Nancy?
No, I think this is an area where CDC does have the leadership role within HHS, and our program is vast and diverse, including all the operational pieces that it takes to deliver vaccines, and importantly, all the local partnerships that it takes to make the case for why vaccines are important. Communication is a hugely important part, monitoring the effectiveness and safety of vaccines so that we continue to assure the public that we know that the vaccines are working like we think they are.
And Madam Chairman, I will just say that both of these, both NIH and CDC, when a member or members of Congress come visit us, I know it's a pain in the neck, but you're always very good to receive us. Dr. Fauci, I try to come to the NIH once each congressional term, and Dr. Messonnier, I was at CDC. It's harder to get to Atlanta for me, but you've been very good about when I have come to make available information and personnel, and it's very, very helpful in sort of setting the background for what you just described. Let me ask a question of either of you or both of you. The 1999, the Public Health Service recommended removing thimerosal, a mercury-containing compound. My understanding, the childhood vaccinations now no longer contain thimerosal, except for a select few, perhaps the multi-dose flu vaccine. Did the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine ever contain mercury or thimerosal? I'll need a verbal answer for the clerk.
No, it's preservative-free.
No, and you didn't ask this, but I just would also point out this is an area where we work with FDA very closely, since vaccine safety is their mandate.
Was there ever any evidence to suggest that mercury or thimerosal was unsafe? I guess that's a better question for the FDA, but you all are experts, subject matter experts.
There's no evidence that it's unsafe.
The thimerosal was removed from vaccines out of an abundance of caution at a time when there wasn't enough evidence, but evidence since then has been very conclusive.
Very well, I thank you for that. I have some additional questions. I will submit those for the record. I'll yield back.
Thank you.